The artificial lighting of the Milwaukee Yacht Club's rooftop terrace reflected off glasses of Scotch whiskey as Ethan Sullivan gazed at the city below, feeling the suffocating weight of another empty night disguised as glamour. 30 years old, heir to an empire, and absolutely numb to his own existence. Beside him, Marcus Bennett laughed too loudly, trying to impress the circle of wealthy friends who would never see him as an equal, no matter how many Armani suits he wore. "I bet I can make any girl fall in love in 30 days, Marcus boasted, already on his third drink of the night. Even that weird scholarship student from architecture. Ethan turned his head, interested for the first time that evening. Olivia Carter. Exactly. The little girl who hides behind her notebook like she's invisible. Marcus smiled with the casual cruelty of someone who never had to fight for anything. $10,000 if I can't do it. Something visceral churned in Ethan's stomach. It should have been disgust, but chronic boredom transformed everything into morbid curiosity. He knew this game. After all, he'd grown up watching his father turn people into chess pieces. Why would this be different? 20,000, Ethan heard his own voice say, if you prove she really fell in love. I want concrete proof. The handshake sealed the fate of 3 people on that humid February night. Ethan didn't know he was betting against himself, against the heart he thought non-existent, against the only woman who would make it all crumble like a house of cards soaked by Lake Michigan rain. While the city slept under a blanket of stars, Olivia Carter sketched by candlelight in her home in River West, dreaming of projects that would make a difference, completely oblivious to the storm about to descend upon her life. Some bets cost more than money. Some cost your soul. Olivia Carter discovered 3 things about the Milwaukee School of Architecture on the first day of class. First, her worn notebook from the public market clashed violently with the MacBooks gleaming on the glass tables. Second, her mental invisibility uniform didn't work as well as she hoped. And third, there were 2 types of rich people in that place. Those who pretended not to see you, and those who looked at you as if calculating your resale value. Ethan Sullivan definitely belonged to the second group. He entered the classroom 20 minutes late, which was apparently acceptable when your last name was engraved on half the luxury buildings in the city. Tall, broad shoulders that the Italian suit accentuated with surgical precision, black hair impeccably styled, and that air of supreme indifference that only old money can cultivate. Olivia recognized him immediately from the society magazines that Mrs. Carter collected religiously, cutting them out to get inspired by the dresses, though she'd never admit it. "Sorry I'm late, Professor Henderson," Ethan said with a smile that apologized for nothing. "Meeting with the mayor's office. You know how it is. Nobody knew, except perhaps the 5 students whose parents also dined with the mayor regularly." The professor merely nodded, clearly uncomfortable with the power dynamic that transformed his classroom into a microcosm of Milwaukee inequality. Ethan chose the chair in the back, not because he wanted to hide, but because from there he could observe everyone like a bored emperor in his private coliseum. His eyes slid across the room with 0 interest, until they landed on Olivia for a second longer than necessary. She felt the weight of that gaze, like someone feels the temperature drop before a storm. Then Marcus Bennett entered, and everything changed. If Ethan was the elegant ice of European mountains, Marcus was the tropical sun. Easy smile, greetings for everyone, that studied friendliness people mistake for kindness, handsome in a more accessible way, like the soap opera heartthrobs her mother loved. Light brown hair slightly tousled on purpose, expensive shirt disguised as casual, imported sneakers that cost more than Olivia's rent. "This place is packed today," Marcus commented to no one in particular, but looking directly at Olivia. "Can I sit here?" She had at least 4 empty chairs around her, but Marcus chose precisely the one next to her. Olivia nodded, unable to understand why someone like him, clearly part of the golden elite, would choose to sit near the displaced scholarship student. "Marcus Bennett," he extended his hand with a smile that seemed genuine. "Are you new here?" "Olivia Carter." Her handshake was brief, professional, the way her father taught her. And yes, first semester. What a coincidence. Me too. Marcus settled in as if perfectly at ease. Well, technically, it's my second first semester. I took a gap year to travel through Europe. You know how it is, sometimes you need to find inspiration. Olivia didn't know what it was like to take a gap year to travel through Europe because she was working 3 shifts as an intern in a tiny office just to pay for course materials, but she smiled politely. That must have been incredible. It was. Marcus leaned in slightly, conspiratorial. But I confess that Barcelona doesn't have the charm of Milwaukee. Seriously. I missed the rain, the smell of brats on the corner, that humidity that sticks to your skin. It was an obvious lie. No one with money to choose preferred Milwaukee's suffocating heat to Mediterranean coolness, but there was something in the way Marcus spoke that almost convinced. Almost. From the back of the room, Ethan observed the scene with growing interest. It wasn't admiration for Marcus' theatrical talent. He already knew that. It was something else. Olivia's posture, erect despite evident insecurity. The way her fingers nervously played with the pen, but her face remained serene. The worn notebook she protected as if it guarded state secrets. There was dignity there, silent pride. And something else Ethan couldn't name, but that deeply bothered him. The class began with Professor Henderson discoursing passionately about sustainable architecture and social responsibility. Beautiful words that most students mechanically noted while planning happy hour at the Third Ward. Olivia, however, wrote feverishly, completely absorbed, as if each word were divine revelation. Architecture isn't about ego, the professor proclaimed, his eyes shining with almost religious fervor. It's about humanity. It's about creating spaces that tell people, you matter, you deserve beauty, functionality, dignity. That's beautiful, Marcus whispered to Olivia, but loud enough to seem sincere. That's exactly why I came back. I want to make a difference, you know, not just erect buildings for millionaires. Olivia turned to him, surprised. Really? Totally. Marcus put his hand on his heart in a dramatic gesture that bordered on ridiculous, but somehow worked. My dream is to work with affordable housing. Prove that luxury and accessibility aren't mutually exclusive. It was exactly what Olivia wanted to hear, exactly the kind of idealism that echoed in her own heart. And Marcus knew it, not because he was psychic, but because Ethan had done the homework. He'd asked classmates about her, discovered her university extension project in underserved communities, her almost obsessive passion for vernacular Milwaukee architecture. Ethan had provided the perfect script. Marcus just needed to recite. When class ended, Marcus deliberately lingered, organizing his materials. Hey, Olivia, a group is going for coffee at Collectivo. Nothing too formal, just to get to know everyone better. Come with us? Olivia hesitated. Collectivo was a trendy cafe in the Third Ward, where a single cappuccino cost what she spent on lunches for the entire week. I don't know. I have to. Please. Marcus made an abandoned puppy expression that would be comical if it weren't so calculated. I confess I don't really know anyone yet. It would be nice to have someone who's also just starting. Line number 4 of the morning, but who was counting? Okay, Olivia conceded, against all instincts screaming to refuse. But just a little while. I have an internship this afternoon. Marcus lit up, as if she'd agreed to marry him. Perfect. They left together, Marcus talking animatedly about absolutely nothing important, and Olivia laughing genuinely for the first time since entering that hostile environment. From the parking lot, leaning against a Mercedes convertible that cost more than Olivia's entire house, Ethan observed everything with an indecipherable expression. Beside him, Sophia Sullivan, 27 years old, impeccably platinum hair and tongue sharper than a surgeon's scalpel, appeared out of nowhere with an organic acai smoothie that cost $40. You have that look of someone who just regretted something very stupid, she observed, sipping the straw with studied elegance. What was it this time? Invested in a failed cryptocurrency, or are you involved in one of Marcus' idiotic schemes? Ethan didn't respond immediately, his eyes still fixed on Olivia, who was laughing at something Marcus said. The morning sun illuminated her face in a way that made it seem she glowed from within. "Nothing," he finally lied. "I'm just bored." "Liar!" Sophia followed her brother's gaze and sighed dramatically. "Oh no, Ethan. Don't tell me you're involved in some ridiculous bet with that girl." The silence was answer enough. "You're an idiot," Sophia diagnosed with the casualness of someone commenting on the weather. "An idiot who's clearly about to screw himself over badly. And you know what's worse? Part of me is excited to watch." Ethan finally looked away, irritated with himself. "It's nothing. It's just a stupid game." Sophia didn't seem convinced. "Well, know that the stupidest games always end with someone suffering, usually not the person you imagine." She was right, as always, but Ethan didn't yet know that the someone who would suffer would be himself, and that suffering would be just the beginning of something much more complex and painful than any bet could predict. Meanwhile, 3 miles away, in the ground-floor house in River West that eternally smelled of cornbread and brewed coffee, Mrs. Sarah Carter interrupted her sewing work to sneeze 3 times in a row. "Someone is speaking ill of someone I love," she announced to her husband, who was reading the newspaper with a mug of black coffee in hand. "I feel it in my spirit, Robert. Something is happening with our Olivia." Mr. Robert Carter lowered the newspaper with the calm of a construction worker who's seen a lot in life. "The girl just started college, woman. Let her live." Sarah didn't seem convinced, returning to the sewing machine with a worried wrinkle on her forehead. "I hope you're right. I hope." Whiskers, the temperamental cat, jumped into her lap and purred, which, in feline language, probably meant, "You're right to worry, but there's nothing you can do now." Cats always know. Olivia's first week at college passed like a fever dream, where she constantly pinched her own arm to make sure she was awake. Marcus Bennett, for reasons that defied all social logic, had decided they were friends, or something close to it. He waited for her before classes with coffee. "Got one for you too. Hope you like cappuccino with cinnamon." Sat beside her in all disciplines and included her in conversations with his group in a way that seemed natural, though nothing about it was natural. It was as if she'd been accidentally promoted from extra to supporting character in a soap opera she didn't know she was filming. "You're different," commented Emma Wilson, her only real friend, during Thursday's break. They were in the less prestigious corner of the cafeteria, where the coffee was watered down but cost half the price. Emma studied interior design, had perpetual confusion between love life and financial life, and wore round glasses that made her look like a particularly curious owl. Different how? Olivia pretended to concentrate on her own sketchbook, but felt her cheeks warming. "I don't know, more light, I don't know, and you're smiling more, much more. You're even wearing lipstick." Emma pointed accusingly. "Lipstick, Liv? You who swore makeup was a waste of time and money." "It's just lipstick my mom gave me." Olivia defended herself weakly, touching her lips instinctively. It was true. Mrs. Carter had insisted that morning, saying something about valuing what God gave you, though Olivia suspected it was just because her mother had bought 5 on sale and wanted to get rid of one. And the fact that you're literally glowing every time that player Marcus appears has nothing to do with it, right? Olivia opened her mouth to deny, but no sound came out, because Emma was right. Marcus Bennett had become a disturbing constant in her life over the past 2 weeks, and the scariest part was that she was starting to anxiously await the moments when he appeared. It shouldn't be like this. She came to college focused, determined, with detailed 5-year plans that didn't include romantic distractions. And yet, here she was, checking her reflection in windows before entering classrooms, hoping to hear that animated, "Hey, Liv," that made her stomach do somersaults. "Has just kind," Olivia finally murmured, knowing how pathetic it sounded. "Kind." Emma repeated the word as if tasting a questionable wine. "Liv, honey, I love you, but you're naive even by standards of naivety. Guys like Marcus Bennett aren't kind. They want something. Not everyone has bad intentions, Emma. No, but everyone wants something. Sometimes what they want is even good, but they always want. Emma stirred her coffee with such force she almost spilled it. Just be careful, okay? Rich people play by different rules, and you, my friend, are too poor to lose. The words hung in the air like toxic smoke. Olivia wanted to argue, defend Marcus, say Emma was being too cynical, but she couldn't, because a part of her, the part that grew up watching her father be mistreated on construction sites by people with half the competence and twice the money, knew her friend was right. Liv! Both turned. Marcus was at the cafeteria entrance, waving with that smile that would melt glaciers. Beside him, for the first time, was Ethan Sullivan. Olivia's heart gave a strange leap. She had carefully avoided any interaction with Ethan over the past weeks, a primitive survival instinct that screamed, "Don't get close to the predator." But now he was there, tall, impeccable in a charcoal suit that should seem excessive for college, but somehow looked perfect, and looking directly at her with an intensity that made her knees buckle. "Come here," Marcus called, completely oblivious to the tension. "I want to introduce you to Ethan properly. You'll be working together on the integrated project." Emma squeezed Olivia's arm in a grip that clearly said both "I warned you" and "good luck" simultaneously. There was no choice. Olivia stood up, smoothing her worn jeans in a nervous gesture, and walked toward them with a confidence she definitely didn't feel. Up close, Ethan was even more intimidating, not just because of his height or the obviousness of money that emanated from him like expensive perfume, but because of his eyes. Dark brown, too intelligent, that seemed to disassemble you piece by piece, to study the internal mechanism. "Olivia Carter," he said, and her name sounded different in that deep voice, as if being savored. "I saw your presentation on vernacular architecture last week. Impressive." She blinked, surprised. Ethan Sullivan had attended her presentation, the heir who missed half the classes and clearly considered it all a tedious pastime. "Thank you," she managed to say, accepting the handshake he offered. His palm was warm, firm, and held for a second longer than necessary. Something electric passed between them. Or maybe it was just Olivia's overactive imagination. "No bullshit," Ethan continued, and for the first time she detected something beyond arrogance in those eyes, a flash of genuine interest. "Most people here are worried about designing ego skyscrapers. You talked about stilt houses and natural cooling as if they were poetry. It was refreshing." Marcus laughed, patting Ethan on the shoulder with familiarity. "I told you she's incredible. That's why I suggested you work together. Olivia has the ideas, you have the contacts. Perfect match." Something soured in Olivia's stomach. The way Marcus spoke, "Olivia has the ideas, you have the contacts," reduced her to just half an equation, where Ethan's money was the other half. As if talent alone wasn't enough, as if she needed him. "I work better alone," Olivia said, more sharply than intended. Both men blinked, surprised. Marcus tried to laugh, turn it into a joke. "Ah, she's proud like that. But seriously, Liv, Professor Henderson was very clear that they're pairs, and I am already with Tiago. Ethan was without a partner. I can find my own partner, thank you." The silence that followed was the kind that makes people around stop talking to spy on the drama. Ethan, however, didn't seem offended. On the contrary, his lips curved into an almost smile that could be respect or amusement. "Hard to tell." "Fair enough," he said calmly. "But if you change your mind, the offer stands. No commitment, no condescension. Just two architects trying not to fail." There was something in the way he said it, without Marcus' forced friendliness, without flourishes, that sounded more honest than anything Olivia had heard in weeks. Think about it," she conceded, hating herself for yielding even minimally. Marcus seemed relieved, filling the silence with chatter about the project, about ideas he clearly hadn't thought through properly. Ethan just observed Olivia with that disturbing intensity, as if memorizing every detail, and then it happened. A group of girls from the class, all of them the type who wore designer bags like identity badges, passed nearby. The leader, Jennifer something, Senator's daughter, stopped dramatically. "Oh, Marcus, I didn't know you were back." She completely ignored Olivia, as if she were part of the furniture. "My father was asking if your father is still interested in that real estate partnership." "Of course, Jennifer." Marcus lit up, clearly loving the attention. "Schedule a dinner and we'll work it out." "Perfect." Jennifer finally looked at Olivia, a quick evaluative glance that classified and dismissed her in half a second. "And who's your little friend?" Little friend. The word was spat with such polite venom that Olivia felt it burn. "Olivia Carter," she answered before Marcus could, looking directly into Jennifer's eyes with a confidence that came not from arrogance, but from years of being underestimated. Full scholarship. Versed in the entrance exam. Pleasure. The final pleasure was pronounced with a sweetness so fake that even Emma from afar choked on her coffee. Jennifer blinked, clearly not expecting to be confronted. "That's nice. I'm glad the college is being more inclusive." Inclusive. Code for letting people like you into our club. Ethan, who had remained silent, finally spoke, and his voice carried a thread of steel that made everyone pay attention. "Olivia doesn't need anyone's inclusivity, Jennifer. Unlike some here, she got in on her own merit. Not because Daddy donated a library." The air froze. Jennifer paled, probably because that's exactly how she got in. Marcus seemed between amused and uncomfortable, and Olivia just looked at Ethan with total confusion. Why was he defending her? Jennifer left in a cloud of expensive perfume and poorly disguised humiliation, taking her entourage with her. Marcus laughed nervously, trying to ease the tension. "Wow, Ethan, you didn't need to." "I did." Ethan cut him off, still looking at Olivia. "You should have too." And then he left, leaving a heavy silence and a completely lost Olivia. Marcus filled the void with words, many words, about how Jennifer was clueless, how Ethan was intense like that, how he, Marcus, really admired her, Olivia, and thought it was incredible that she didn't let herself be intimidated. But Olivia barely heard. Her mind was stuck on something else. Ethan Sullivan had defended her. The man who clearly had everything and everyone, who didn't need anyone, had chosen to fight a battle that wasn't his. Why? That night at home, while helping Mrs. Carter fold sheets on the backyard clothesline, Olivia told her about the day. Her mother listened in silence, that perceptive silence that meant she was processing every word. "This Marcus seems like good people," Sarah finally said, pinning a towel with unnecessary force. "But he's one of those good people who's only good when it's convenient. You understand what I'm saying?" "Mom, now, this Ethan guy—" Sarah paused, thoughtful. "He's dangerous in a different way. He's the type who breaks you without meaning to, just by existing. But at least he's honest in his cruelty. You're reading too many romance novels." Olivia tried to laugh, but it sounded forced. "And you have that look of someone who's starting to feel too much." Sarah turned, holding her daughter's face with hands calloused by work. "My daughter, I can't protect you from everything, nor do I want to. You need to live, make mistakes, get up, but promise me one thing." "What?" "Don't let anyone make you forget who you are, no matter how many expensive coffees they buy or how many doors they open. You're Olivia Carter. You're strong, intelligent, and worth more than all those rich kids combined. Promise?" Olivia hugged her mother, feeling tears she refused to let fall. "I promise." But promises made in backyards lit by stars are fragile, and Olivia didn't yet know that the worst was just beginning, and that the cruelty would come not from the man who defended her, but from the one who smiled kindly while plunging the knife. Meanwhile, across town, in the penthouse with panoramic views, Ethan Sullivan played piano in the dark. The notes flowed melancholic, music no one would ever hear because he only played when alone. And for the first time in years, Ethan found himself thinking about someone other than himself, thinking about eyes that shone with conviction, about fierce pride that didn't need money to exist, about a voice that said, "I work better alone," like a declaration of war against a world that insisted she needed help. Olivia Carter was a problem Ethan had created by making that damned bet. And now he didn't know how to solve it without destroying the only interesting thing that had entered his life in years. The integrated project became the class's obsession during the following 3 weeks. The proposal was ambitious. Redesign a degraded area of Milwaukee, transforming it into sustainable housing without erasing local identity. 20 pairs competing for the best proposal, which would be presented at the end of the semester to a panel that included renowned architects and, according to rumors, even the city planning commissioner. Olivia ended up accepting to work with Ethan, not because she wanted to, but because Professor Henderson practically emotionally blackmailed her, saying it would be pedagogically enriching to join raw talent with practical experience. Translation: pair the poor scholarship student with the rich heir and hope magic happens. The first meeting was a meticulously polite disaster. They met at the library on a Tuesday afternoon when the sun streamed through the stained glass, creating patterns of light that Olivia would normally love to sketch. But she couldn't concentrate on anything but Ethan's disturbing presence sitting across the table, as out of place in that environment as a jaguar in a crystal shop. "So," he began, opening a laptop that probably cost the equivalent of 6 months of her father's salary. "Do you have any ideas about what you want to do?" "I have several," Olivia responded, perhaps too quickly. She opened her notebook, the worn one, because if Ethan had a problem with that, it was his problem. "I thought about focusing on the River West area near where I live. It has incredible potential, but needs basic infrastructure before anything else. Clean water, sanitation, street lighting, infrastructure that doesn't give immediate profit," Ethan completed, but without the sarcasm she expected. There was something else in his voice. Tiredness, perhaps. Recognition. "My father hates projects like that. Says social architecture is NGO stuff, not serious business." Olivia studied him, trying to understand if it was a test or confession. "And you? What do you think?" Ethan was silent for too long, his fingers drumming on the keyboard without typing anything. When he finally spoke, he didn't look at her. "I think I spent my whole life building things nobody needs for people who already have too much, and that maybe it's time to build something that matters." The raw sincerity in his voice completely disarmed Olivia. She had prepared for arrogance, condescension, maybe even disinterest. Not for this. Not for vulnerability. "Okay," she said softly, feeling the weight of that moment. "Then let's make something that matters." And so began an unlikely partnership that would transform into something much more dangerous. In the following weeks, Ethan and Olivia became permanent fixtures at the library, in the project room, in the cheap cafes she chose, and the expensive ones he insisted on paying for. They worked well together, frighteningly well. She had the humanist vision. He had the technical construction knowledge that came from growing up in a construction company. She drew with passion, he refined with precision. They argued, sometimes heatedly, but always arrived at something better than they started. And somewhere between floor plans and discussions about rainwater harvesting, something changed. Olivia began to see beyond the impeccable suit and heavy surname. She saw a man tired of carrying impossible expectations, trapped in a golden cage built by generations. Ethan played piano, she discovered accidentally when he mentioned it in a moment of distraction. He liked jazz, old black-and-white movies, empty libraries where he could think without being the Sullivan heir. And Ethan saw Olivia. Really saw. Not as the poor scholarship student or the girl from the wrong side of town, but as a force of nature disguised as serenity. He saw how her eyes lit up when she solved a project problem, how she bit her lip when concentrated, how she defended her ideas with a conviction he'd never felt for anything in his life. He was in love, completely, irrevocably in love, and it terrified him, because with each passing day the bet became a more present ghost. Marcus continued his romantic farce, appearing with flowers, dinner invitations, increasingly elaborate declarations. And Olivia, sweet and naive Olivia, was clearly becoming enchanted. Ethan saw, because he observed everything, damn it. Saw the way she smiled when Marcus appeared, how her cheeks flushed with exaggerated compliments. He should feel satisfaction. The bet was working perfectly, but all Ethan felt was corrosive rage at himself. "You're being weird with Marcus lately," Emma commented one day while she and Olivia had lunch in their usual corner. "Like, I don't know." Confused, Olivia stirred her food without eating, thoughtful. "It's because he's too much, too kind, too attentive, too everything. Seems like those things too good to be true." "They usually are," Emma said with her brutal honesty as always. "But hey, who am I to talk? I'm dating a guy who lives with his mum and thinks cutting his hair once a year is sufficient hygiene." Olivia laughed, but the laugh didn't reach her eyes. "You know what's funny? I should be in love with Marcus. He's perfect on paper, handsome, kind, interested in the same projects as me. But every time I'm with him, I keep thinking about—" She stopped, realizing too late what she was about to say. "About who?" Emma leaned in, eyes shining with professional gossip interest. "Nothing. Forget it. Olivia Carter. If you don't finish that sentence, I swear—" "Ethan, okay?" The words came out in a rushed flood, as if forcibly extracted. "I keep thinking about Ethan. The way he really listens to me. How he disagrees with me without making me feel stupid. How he plays piano when he thinks no one's listening. How he looks at me like you're the only person in the room." Emma completed softly, all playfulness disappearing. "Liv, oh honey, I know. Olivia buried her face in her hands. "It's ridiculous. Here's Ethan Sullivan. He probably has a line of perfect women waiting, and me! You're incredible," Emma said fiercely, taking her friend's hand. "You're smart, talented, beautiful, and authentic. If he doesn't see that, the problem is his." But the problem was that Ethan did see. He saw too much, and was drowning in it. The situation reached critical point during the mid-semester party at the yacht club, organized by the class. Olivia almost didn't go. Places like that weren't for her, and she knew it. But Emma insisted. Marcus insisted even more, and even Ethan had murmured something about "it would be good if you came," with strange intensity. So she went, wearing a simple dress Mrs. Carter made especially, navy blue with discreet embroidery that didn't scream poverty, but also didn't pretend wealth. She looked beautiful in a natural way that made all the other girls in their designer dresses seem like they were trying too hard. Marcus found her at the entrance, practically radiant. "You look perfect," he said, offering his arm in a gentlemanly way that should be charming but felt rehearsed. "Come on, I want to introduce you to some people." The following hours were a blur of white faces, conversations about international trips Olivia would never take, and expensive wine she barely touched. Marcus was in his element, navigating groups with ease, always with his hand on her back in a possessive way that started to bother her. Ethan was on the other side of the hall, surrounded by a group that included Jennifer and other heiresses, all competing for his attention. But his eyes kept drifting to where Olivia was, a gravitational orbit he couldn't control. Sophia appeared beside him with a champagne flute and an expression of someone watching a car crash in slow motion. "You're embarrassing," she informed him cheerfully. "Like, embarrassing in a pitiful way. All you need is to drool." "Shut up, Sophie." "I won't shut up. Someone needs to tell you the truth." Sophia took a sip, watching Marcus dance with Olivia to a slow song. "You're in love with her, obvious even to someone with mole vision, and you're watching Marcus win the bet you created. Ironic, hilarious, pathetic, pick your favorite adjective." "I know," Ethan said, his voice low and tense. "Then do something, idiot. Tell the truth, beg forgiveness, whatever. But stop standing there like a tragic Greek statue. What if she hates me? She'll already hate you when she finds out on her own. The difference is that now you still have a chance to save something." Sophia patted her brother's shoulder with a force that didn't match the elegance of the gesture. "But you need to stop this farce before she really falls in love with that fake idiot Marcus. Because then, my dear brother, you won't have just lost the bet. You'll have lost her, The words hit Ethan like punches, because Sophia was right. She always was. That's when it happened. Marcus and Olivia were on the terrace, slightly away from the crowd, and he was making that face of someone about to say something important. Ethan watched from inside the hall, his stomach churning. "Olivia," Marcus began, holding her hands in a way that seemed staged. "I need to tell you something." Her heart accelerated, for the wrong reason. Because in that moment, it wasn't Marcus she wanted to see making that declaration. It was someone else, someone she shouldn't want. "I'm falling in love with you," Marcus said, and there was something in his voice, something that didn't fit. He seemed almost relieved, like he was completing a task. Olivia froze. "Marcus, You don't need to answer now. I just needed you to know." He smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "You're special, Olivia. So special that you even changed the perspective of a cynic like me." There was something wrong, very wrong. The words were right, but the emotion behind them was disconnected, like an actor reciting well-memorized lines. "I need air," Olivia said, releasing his hands and going down to the club gardens, her heart beating too fast and her thoughts a whirlwind. She didn't see Ethan following a few steps behind. She didn't see Marcus returning inside the hall and finding a group of friends laughing with relief. She didn't see Marcus' phone being pulled by one of them, showing the bank transfer record, $20,000, from Ethan Sullivan. But Sophia saw. And Emma, who had arrived late, also saw, and the world, as Olivia knew it, was about to collapse. In the garden, Olivia leaned against a tree, trying to understand her own feelings. Marcus had declared love. She should be happy, floating, radiant, but all she felt was empty, and guilt for feeling empty. "Are you okay?" Ethan's voice made her jump. He was there, a few meters away, hands in his pockets, looking more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "Should I be?" "He told you, didn't he?" It wasn't a question. Olivia nodded, unable to trust her own voice. Ethan took a step forward, then stopped, as if there were an invisible wall between them. "And you? How do you feel about him?" The question was loaded with an intensity that made the air seem thinner. Olivia should lie, should say what was right, sensible, safe. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I know it's not what I should feel." "And what should you feel?" "Butterflies, anxiety, that silly certainty that you found the right person." Olivia finally looked at him, and it was a mistake, because Ethan observed her as if she was simultaneously the solution and problem to all his dilemmas. "But I don't feel any of that with him." "And do you feel it with anyone else?" The question hung between them, dangerous, promising, impossible. Olivia opened her mouth to respond, and Emma came running, her face pale, holding her phone like it was a bomb about to explode. "Liv," she said, breathless, "you need to see something. Now." The tone in her friend's voice made Olivia's blood freeze. "What?" Emma looked at Ethan, and there was accusation in that look. Accusation and disappointment. "Maybe you should tell her, Ethan, before she finds out the wrong way." The world stopped. Olivia looked between the two, panic growing. "Tell me what? Someone explain what's happening." Ethan was white, frozen, clearly locked between horror and despair. And it was Sophia who appeared, her high heels clicking on the garden stones, bringing Marcus dragged by the arm and half a dozen curious witnesses. "Since my brother doesn't have the courage," Sophia said, her voice hard but eyes shining with angry tears, "let me tell you, Olivia, you want to know why Marcus was so perfect? Why all that interest? Because it was a bet. A fucking $20,000 bet to see if he could make you fall in love in 30 days. The silence that followed was absolute, total, the kind of silence that happens when the universe stops breathing. Olivia blinked, trying to process words that made no sense. "What? I received it today," Marcus said, and for the first time there was something real in his voice. "Shame. $20,000 from Ethan, because I won the bet. Because you fell in love." "But I didn't," Olivia started, but the words died, because it was a lie. She had fallen in love, just with the wrong person, with the person who had created all of this. She turned to Ethan, and the look she gave would make statues bleed. "You, Olivia, let me explain. You made a bet with me." Her voice was frighteningly calm. "I was a game. Rich people's entertainment." "No, it's not like that. It was at the beginning, but after what?" Olivia took a step forward, and everyone instinctively stepped back with the fury in her eyes. "After you decided I was human. Thanks for the consideration." "I fell in love with you," Ethan shouted, and the confession echoed through the garden. "I fell in love and have been trying to cancel everything, but I didn't know how without hurting you more." "Hurt me more?" Olivia laughed, a brittle sound that had no humor. "Ethan, you turned me into a joke, a bar bet, made me believe someone could actually want me when it was all lies from the beginning." "Olivia, please." "No!" She raised her hand, tears finally falling. "Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. You don't exist anymore." And she ran out, Emma and Sophia running after her, leaving Ethan alone with the wreckage of the worst mistake of his life. Marcus quietly backed away, the bank transfer burning more than any amount was worth. And Milwaukee, indifferent to human drama, began to rain, one of those torrential Lake Michigan rains that wash the streets but never manage to clean consciences. Olivia didn't return to college for 2 weeks. Mrs. Carter tried to cheer her up with comfort food, with jokes, with the constant warm presence only mothers know how to offer. Mr. Carter stood at her bedroom door at night, saying nothing, just being there. David, her brother, offered to break Ethan's face, a proposal Olivia rejected with a watery smile. Whiskers, the temperamental cat, spent nights curled on her chest, purring softly, as if he could absorb pain through physical contact. But nothing worked, because it wasn't just the betrayal, it was her own stupidity, for believing, for allowing herself to dream that someone like Marcus could be interested in someone like her without a hidden motive, for falling in love with the wrong man while pretending to believe the liar, because that's what hurt most. Olivia wasn't suffering over Marcus. She was suffering over Ethan, the man who had created that circus of horrors, who had turned her feelings into entertainment, was the same one her heart stubbornly beat faster for, and she hated herself for it, hated herself deeply. "You're going to have to go back eventually," Emma said one afternoon, sitting on the bed beside her, eating ice cream straight from the container. "You can't let those idiots take away your dream. It's not that simple." "Yes, it is. It's very simple. You go back and be amazing, be so absurdly amazing that they choke on their own insignificance." Emma took her hand. "Liv, honey, listen. They were jerks, monumentally jerks. But you know what would be even jerkier? You giving up. Because then they really win." Olivia knew her friend was right. But going back meant seeing Ethan, seeing those eyes that had pretended genuine interest, seeing Marcus and his poorly disguised guilt. But it also meant finishing her project, proving to that elitist college that she belonged there not out of kindness or quotas, but pure talent. So she went back. On the following Monday, Olivia entered the classroom with her head held high, wearing one of the dresses Mrs. Carter made, simple, elegant, silently declaring, "I don't need you to be worthy." The silence that followed was gratifying. Everyone looked. Some with pity, others with morbid curiosity. Ethan was there in the back, more dejected than she'd ever seen him. Deep, dark circles, unshaven, impeccable suit, but wrinkled in a way that suggested he'd slept in it. When their eyes met, he opened his mouth, but Olivia looked away with surgical coldness that hurt more than any insult. Marcus wasn't there. He had withdrawn from enrollment, according to rumors, fled his own shame. "Liv!" whispered a voice. Sophia was in a corner, discreetly waving. Olivia hesitated. Sophia was Ethan's sister, after all. But something in her expression was genuine. They met in the hallway after class. "I know you hate me by association," Sophia began without preamble, "and I understand, but you need to know, I wasn't involved. When I found out, I wanted to rip my brother's head off with my own hands. Why are you telling me this? Because you don't deserve to be treated like garbage, and because my brother is a colossal idiot, but he's destroyed. Not that it matters. You have no obligation to forgive. But I thought you should know there are people in the Sullivan family who think he made a monumental screw-up. Olivia studied Sophia. The impeccably arranged platinum hair, flawless red lipstick, but tired eyes of someone who spent nights consoling an adult brother crying like a child. It doesn't change anything, Olivia said softly. I know, but I needed to say it. Sophia paused. And one more thing. That witch of a mother of mine is spreading that you set everything up to get money from Ethan. That the victim thing is invented. I wanted you to know so you can protect yourself. The anger Olivia had repressed exploded like a geyser. She what? Catherine Sullivan is a viper in high heels. Always has been. Can't stand the idea that someone without a surname could be important to her son. Sophia sighed. I'm trying to control the damage, but she has many contacts. So, if you hear crap, know the source is her. Olivia nodded, stunned. As if the humiliation of the bet wasn't enough, now she was being defamed. The following weeks were psychological warfare. Olivia discovered that 3 internships she had secured suddenly filled the position internally. Professors who previously praised her now evaluated her with suspicious rigor. Whispers followed her through the hallways. Catherine Sullivan was efficient at what she did. Ethan constantly tried to approach her, leaving notes in her notebook, appearing casually at places she frequented, sending messages she deleted without reading. Each attempt was a slap on the still open wound, until he gave up on subtleties. It was Friday, the eve of the integrated project's final presentation. Olivia was alone in the project room, working late because sleeping was impossible anyway. The door opened, and she knew who it was without needing to look. Leave, Ethan. I need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. Olivia, please. His voice was broken in a way that made something hurt in her chest. Just 5 minutes, then he'll disappear from your life forever if you want. She finally turned, and what she saw shocked her. Ethan was unrecognizable, too thin, sunken eyes, slightly trembling hands. He looked like someone who hadn't slept or eaten in weeks. 2 minutes, she conceded, hating her own compassion. Ethan closed the door and stood there as if not knowing where to start. Damn, I rehearsed this 1,000 times, and now I can't remember anything. Maybe because there's nothing to say. You made a bet. I was an idiot. End of story. No! His intensity made her step back. It's not the end of any story. Yes, I made the bet. It was the cruelest, most disgusting, unforgivable thing I've ever done. But Olivia, you need to understand, I fell in love. Really. It hurt because I realized too late that I'd destroyed the only thing worth anything. Your words mean nothing to me. I know. That's why I'm showing you. He pulled out his phone, scrolled, and showed the screen. It was an official statement. Ethan Sullivan had resigned from the board of Sullivan Construction. He had cut financial ties with his father. He was donating $20,000, exactly the bet amount, to an affordable housing project in River West. Olivia read, unable to process. Why? Because I don't want to be the man who did that. I want to be someone worthy of you, even knowing I never will be. But I need to try. Tears streamed down his face, unashamed. My whole life was about being the Sullivan heir, about following the script my father wrote, and I hated every second. But it was easy, you know, letting myself be controlled until you. Ethan, you showed me you can be good, not because it's easy or profitable, but because it's right. That architecture can serve people, not just profits, that there's beauty in humble projects that change lives. He took a step, hesitant. I love you, Olivia, and I know I have no right. I know you hate me, but I needed you to know you changed my life. Even hating me, please don't give up on your dreams because of what I did. The silence was deafening. Olivia felt tears coming for the first time in weeks, not from pain, but overwhelming confusion. Because believing meant risking being an idiot again, but not believing meant ignoring the raw sincerity in his eyes. I need time, she finally whispered. I don't know if I can forgive. I don't know if I can trust again, but I see what you're trying to do. It's enough, Ethan said too quickly, as if afraid she'd change her mind. I'll wait, however long you need. He left, leaving Olivia alone with a confused heart and a half-finished project. The next morning, the final presentation was dramatic. Olivia presented alone. Ethan had asked to remove his name from the project, saying the work was all hers. And indeed it was. She had rebuilt everything from scratch after the disaster, creating something brilliant, humanistic, viable. The panel was impressed. Professor Henderson openly cried. Even the city planning commissioner, a hard man who approved 2 projects per decade, nodded positively. Olivia won first place, but when they came on stage to congratulate her, Catherine Sullivan was there, special guest obviously, with a viper's smile. "Congratulations, dear," she said, voice sweet as poisoned sugar. "Charming project. I almost believed a girl from your position could have created something like this without external help." The hall froze. "Excuse me?" Olivia said, dangerously calm. "Oh, no offense. It's just that it's very sophisticated for someone without resources, privileged education, influences." Catherine smiled more. "But perhaps your close relationship with my son facilitated access to certain technical knowledge." It was a veiled accusation of plagiarism, of seduction for advantage. Before Olivia could explode, Ethan came on stage. "Shut up, mother." The shock was collective. Ethan Sullivan, always well-behaved, publicly confronting Catherine. "How dare you?" Catherine began. "No!" Ethan shouted, and the entire hall trembled with years of repressed fury. "You won't destroy her. I won't let you." Olivia Carter is more talented, more ethical, and more human than all of us combined. This project is entirely hers. Every line, every idea. I just had the luck to watch genius in action up close. He turned to the audience, his voice breaking but firm. "I did something unforgivable to her, a cruel bet that shames me every day, and I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but she deserves respect, deserves recognition. And anyone who says otherwise will have to go through me first." Catherine was livid. The planning commissioner looked fascinated. The audience shocked. And Olivia looked at Ethan with a mixture of anger, gratitude, and something dangerously close to love. "Get off my stage," she said quietly, but he heard. Ethan obeyed, descending the steps with hunched shoulders. The ceremony ended in controlled chaos. Catherine left furious. Sophia ran to hug Olivia. Emma shouted, "That's my friend," to anyone who would listen. And Olivia, holding the first-place certificate, felt for the first time that maybe, just maybe, the worst had passed. But some wounds need more than words to heal, and some hearts need more than gestures to believe again. 5 years, 60 months, 1,825 days. That was the time Olivia needed to become the woman she always knew she could be, without excuses, without shortcuts, without depending on anyone. She finished college as valedictorian, refused offers from traditional firms, and opened her own studio focused on sustainable architecture and social projects. She slept on couches, ate ramen more times than she'd like to admit, but built something solid, real, hers. Her work drew attention, first locally, then nationally. Architecture Digest did a cover story, the architect redesigning the concept of affordable housing. Awards came, invitations to speak, recognition. And now, at 29 years old, Olivia Carter was back in Milwaukee for the biggest project of her career, a partnership with the city to build a sustainable housing complex in the metropolitan area. 500 families, rainwater harvesting, solar panels, community green spaces, everything she'd always dreamed of. What she didn't expect was to discover who would be her direct competitor in the bidding. The meeting happened on a suffocating Monday, the Wisconsin heat turning any movement into effort. The mayor's office conference room was packed. Politicians, business people, journalists. Olivia entered in her simple but perfectly cut grey suit, hair pulled in an elegant bun, and that posture that came from years building credibility. And then she saw him. Ethan Sullivan was on the other side of the room, discussing with a group of engineers. More mature, beard trimmed with precision, premature grey hairs at the temples that somehow made him even more attractive. The suit was impeccable, but there was something different, a simplicity that didn't exist before. Less ostentation, more substance. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and it was like going back 5 years in time. The air became thinner, the surrounding noise disappeared. For one eternal second, there were just the two of them, and the weight of everything said and unsaid. Ethan looked like he'd taken a punch. His expression went through surprise, pain, something that could be hope, all in half a second before recomposing himself. The planning commissioner, the same one from the presentation 5 years ago, knocked on the table. "People, let's begin. We have 2 finalists for the Green Waters residential project. On the left, Carter and Associates, represented by the brilliant Olivia Carter. On the right, New Horizon Construction, represented by Ethan Sullivan." Olivia processed the information in slow motion. New Horizon? Not Sullivan Construction? "As you know," the commissioner continued, "we want something revolutionary. Not just houses, but dignity. Not just structure, but community. You two were chosen because you represent the future of social architecture in America." The irony was cruel. 5 years ago, they worked together on the project that changed both their lives. Now they were on opposite sides of the table, competing for the same dream. The meeting continued with technical presentations, discussions about deadlines, budgets. Olivia forced herself to focus, to be professional, but she felt Ethan's gaze on her constantly, a physical weight that made her skin tingle. When it ended, she tried to leave quickly, but Ethan caught up with her in the hallway. "Olivia, wait!" She stopped but didn't turn. "What do you want, Ethan?" "Just, wow, you look incredible. I mean, you always were, but now—" He seemed genuinely lost. "I read about your work, watched your lectures online. You did it, everything you dreamed of." Olivia finally turned, and the coldness in her eyes could freeze hell. "Without your help. Actually, without help from anyone with an important surname." The blow hit dead center. Ethan recoiled as if he'd been slapped. "I deserve that," he said quietly. "I deserve much more than that. You deserve for me to ignore your existence, which is exactly what I'm going to do." Olivia started walking, but he followed. "New Horizon is mine," Ethan said suddenly. "I started from scratch 5 years ago. No money from my father, no Sullivan name. Just me and 3 engineers who believed in the proposal. We only focus on affordable housing and social projects." Despite herself, Olivia was curious. "Why?" "Because you showed me it's possible, that profit and purpose aren't mutually exclusive." He stopped, forcing her to stop too. "Olivia, I know I have no right to ask anything, but this bid doesn't have to be war. We could collaborate. Together, we could create something revolutionary." Olivia's laugh was acidic. "You're delusional. 5 years ago, you used me as a game piece. Now you want me to be your partner? No, Ethan. This time, I'm going to defeat you. And you're going to watch everything from the balcony, knowing the scholarship student was better than you from the beginning." She left, leaving Ethan alone in the hallway with the crushing weight of his own past. The following weeks were intense. Both teams worked frantically, spying on each other's projects through contacts at City Hall, adjusting proposals, trying to outdo each other. It was professional, but also personal, very personal. Olivia threw herself into work, with obsession bordering on insanity. Emma, now her partner and best friend, tried to make her rest. "Are you working 20 hours a day because you want to win or because you want to prove something to him?" Emma asked one night, finding Olivia for the 14th consecutive hour over floor plans. "Both," Olivia admitted, rubbing her tired eyes. "I want to prove he didn't destroy me, that I don't need him to be incredible. Liv, you've already proven that, to everyone, except apparently to yourself. It's not that simple." "Yes, it is." Emma sat down, forcing her friend to look at her. "Are you angry at him, or at yourself for still feeling something?" The question hit like a direct arrow. Olivia opened her mouth to deny and realized she couldn't. "I hate him," she whispered, "but also I don't hate him, and that makes me furious, because it would be easier if you just hated him." "Exactly," Emma sighed. "You know what I think? I think you need to really talk to him, not this professional cat-and-mouse game, an honest conversation about what happened and what you both feel now." "I don't feel anything." "Liar." Before Olivia could respond, her phone rang. "Unknown number," she answered, irritated. "Olivia Carter?" "Yes?" "This is Richard Sullivan." Olivia's blood froze. The patriarch, Ethan's father. The man who had never spoken a word to her, but whose influence she felt like a constant shadow. "What do you want?" "Straight to the point." "I like that." The voice was firm, authoritative, accustomed to giving orders that were obeyed. "I need you to withdraw from the bidding." Olivia almost laughed. "Excuse me? It'll be clear, my son is making a mistake destroying the family legacy because of some existential crisis inspired by you. This ridiculous construction company of social projects has no future. He needs to return to real business. And what do I have to do with this? Everything. As long as you're around, hell continue this fantasy. So I'll make you an offer. Withdraw from the bidding and I'll guarantee 3 contracts for you in other cities. Big, lucrative, all signed and legal. You're trying to bribe me. I'm trying to solve a problem in a civilized manner." There was a veiled threat there. "Refuse, and I can make your professional life very complicated. I have many friends in important positions." The anger Olivia felt was incandescent, but beneath it, there was something else. The realization that Ethan had truly broken with this man, had chosen a different path, even knowing the price. "Mr. Sullivan," she said with deadly calm, "I'm going to pretend this conversation never happened, because if I tell anyone you tried to manipulate a public bidding, it would be the end of your career. So here's my counteroffer. Stay away from me, away from your son, and pray I don't change my mind about keeping silent." She hung up before he could respond, hands trembling with adrenaline. "What the hell was that?" Emma asked, jaw dropped. "Ethan's father trying to buy me off." Olivia looked at her phone, processing. "Emma, if he's so desperate to get me away from his son, that means Ethan really changed, really cut ties. This isn't a game. And what are you going to do with that information?" Olivia didn't know, but something inside her was changing. The armor built over 5 years, beginning to show cracks. The climax came the week of the final decision. Both companies were invited to present projects live in a public event at the Pabst Theater. Milwaukee's elite would be there, journalists, politicians. It was the project of the century for the city. Olivia arrived early, nervous in a way she hadn't felt in years. Her project was brilliant. She knew that. But there were so many variables out of control. And then it happened. Her laptop, with the entire presentation, wouldn't turn on, simply dead. Emma panicked, trying everything, but nothing worked. They had 15 minutes until the start. "This is sabotage," Emma said, furious. "Someone messed with your equipment on purpose." Olivia tried to stay calm, but panic was growing. 5 years of work, the biggest project of her life, and she was going to lose because of a stupid technical problem? "Use my laptop." She turned. Ethan was there, holding his own equipment. "What? Your project is in the cloud, right? Access it from my computer. Quick, we have 10 minutes. "Ethan, you're competing against me." "So what?" He pushed the laptop into her hands. "This isn't about competition. It's about doing the right thing, and you need to present. The city needs to see your project." Olivia looked at him, searching for the trick, the trap, but there was only exhausted sincerity and something more, genuine respect. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I learned from the best." Ethan smiled sadly. "That people matter more than winning." There was no time to process. Olivia took the laptop, accessed her files, and went on stage 2 minutes late, heart pounding violently. Her presentation was masterful. She showed not just plans and numbers, but people, families, dreams, dignity transformed into square footage. The theater fell silent, then exploded in applause. When Ethan went up right after, Olivia expected to be destroyed by comparison. But what happened was different. Ethan presented his project, excellent too, but then deviated from the script. "Before I finish," he said, his voice echoing through the theater, "I need to say something. You saw two excellent projects today, mine and Olivia's, but only one of them deserves to win." Confused murmurs in the audience. "Olivia's project is superior in every way. It's more human, more sustainable, more connected to the people it will serve. And if I were you, that's what I'd vote for." The theater exploded. Journalists shouted questions. The commissioner looked confused. And Olivia was frozen in her seat, unable to understand what had just happened. Ethan came down from the stage and walked directly to her. "I withdraw," he said simply. "I'm pulling my proposal. The project is yours. Have you lost your mind?" Olivia stood up, furious and confused simultaneously. "Why would you do this?" "Because 5 years ago I used you to win a bet. Today, I'm using my chance to ensure you win what you deserve." He held her face gently, and she was so shocked she didn't pull away. "Olivia, I spent 5 years trying to be worthy of you, built a company from scratch, cut ties with my father, changed everything in my life, not because I thought you'd forgive me, but because you showed me who I could be. Ethan, I love you. I always have, since those days in the library, arguing about water harvesting and ecological bricks. And I know I have no right, that it's too late, but I needed you to know everything good I am today I owe to you." Tears fell down Olivia's face before she realized. "You're an idiot. I know. You destroyed my life 5 years ago. I know. And now you're destroying your own company for me, if necessary. Why? Because you're worth more than any company, worth more than anything." Ethan pulled her closer, forehead against forehead. "And because some things are more important than winning, like ensuring the most incredible person you've ever met has the chance she always deserved." The entire theater watched, absolute silence punctuated only by camera clicks. And Olivia, who had promised never to be vulnerable again, who had sworn Ethan Sullivan was dead past, felt the walls fall. "I hate you," she whispered. "I know. You made me suffer so much. I know. But also, the words were impossible, dangerous. I also never stopped loving you, and I hate you for that too." Ethan kissed her, didn't ask permission, didn't wait, just kissed her with 5 years of regret and dammed up love. And Olivia kissed him back, pouring into the action all the anger, pain, and contradictory feelings she'd carried as armor. The theater exploded in applause, shouts, chaos. When they finally separated, both were crying. "This doesn't erase what you did," Olivia said, firm despite the tears. "I know. It'll take time, a lot of time, for me to trust again. I'll wait, however long it takes. And you won't just hand me projects. We'll compete for real when it comes to it. No favoritism." Ethan laughed through tears. "I wouldn't expect anything less. And if you hurt me again, Emma has permission to hire a hitman." "Fair." Olivia finally smiled, small, hesitant, but real. "Okay then. Okay. We can try. Slowly. But we can try." From the balcony, Catherine Sullivan watched everything with an expression of someone who just swallowed glass. Sophia beside her was in happy tears, recording everything on her phone. Emma shouted victory as if her team had won the World Cup. And Milwaukee, silent witness to so many stories, began to rain. But this time, it was a light, purifying rain that washed the streets without destroying. Some bets become love, some defeats are disguised victories, and some stories need to be completely destroyed before being rebuilt into something stronger, truer, more lasting than any concrete structure. Epilogue. Tomorrow's foundations. 3 years later. The lakeside house didn't appear in any architecture magazine, and that was exactly how Olivia wanted it. Small, sustainable, with huge windows that captured the golden light of sunset over Lake Michigan. She had designed it herself, Ethan had helped build it, and together they transformed an abandoned lot into a home. It wasn't luxurious, didn't scream wealth, but it breathed peace. Olivia was on the deck, reviewing plans for the next project, a sustainable school in rural Wisconsin, when familiar arms wrapped around her from behind. "You promised you'd rest today," Ethan murmured against her neck. "I promised I'd try. Didn't say it'd succeed." She turned, smiling. "Besides, you're in the same situation, Mr. I have a 6 a.m. meeting." Touché! They had found a rhythm in recent years. It wasn't easy. There were fights, relapses, moments where the past threatened to swallow the present. Couples therapy helped. Patience too. An understanding that love doesn't erase mistakes, but can build something more resilient on top of them. New Horizon and Carter and Associates became partners on several projects, a professional relationship that balanced competition with collaboration. Together, they were redesigning how affordable housing was viewed in America. Richard Sullivan never spoke to his son again after the bidding scandal. Catherine attempted an awkward reconciliation that was politely declined, but Sophia became honorary aunt to Whiskers and showed up every Sunday for loud lunches that included Mrs. Carter, Mr. Carter, David, Emma, and any friend who appeared. "Your mom called," Ethan said, serving 2 glasses of cherry juice. "Wants to know if we're coming to the barbecue on Sunday." "As if she'd accept a no," Olivia laughed. "She's already chosen your favorite dish, I'm sure. She does that because she loves me. She does that because you ate 3 brats once, and she was enchanted that a rich boy liked real food. Your love is based on bratwurst. I can live with that." Whiskers appeared, now fat and lazy at 10 years old, and jumped onto Ethan's lap with the authority of someone who knew that was his rightful place. The cat purred loudly, satisfied. "He still likes you more than me," Olivia complained without real resentment. "Jealous. Very." Ethan pulled her close with his free arm, kissing the top of her head. "There's plenty of room in my lap. Romantic. I learned from the best." He paused, suddenly serious. "Live? I know I've told you this millions of times, but thank you for giving me a second chance, for not giving up when it would have been easier." Olivia turned to face him, touching his face with the tenderness that came from years of reconstruction. "Ethan Sullivan, you spent 3 years proving every day that you changed, built an entirely different life, cut away everything toxic, and most importantly, gave me space to heal without pressure. Still nothing. The man who made that bet 8 years ago doesn't exist anymore. You killed him and built someone better, and that someone, that one I choose every day." They kissed softly, the cat complaining between them about the lack of attention. The sun began to set over the lake, tinting everything orange and gold. From afar came the sounds of the city, horns, music, life happening in all its chaotic complexity. And on that small deck, in a house that would appear in magazines but sheltered more love than any mansion, 2 people who had been destroyed by the worst in each other found the best version of themselves. Because in the end, architecture, whether of concrete or relationships, isn't about creating perfect structures. It's about building foundations solid enough to withstand storms. It's about renovating what was broken and transforming ruins into new beginnings. It's about choosing every day to rebuild. And Olivia and Ethan were masters at that. So did you enjoy this story? Did you get emotional, laugh, root for the couple, or curse Ethan at some point? Then leave that like down below, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to receive more stories like this one. Your interaction helps the channel grow and allows other people just like you to discover good stories of love, drama, and redemption. Share it with that friend who loves a romantic comedy with emotion too. Thanks for reading all the way through, and see you in the next story.